So here was Abraham trying to explain to his son, God will provide himself a lamb. In the meantime, he felt so horrible. He knew that God asked him to offer his only son. Doesn't that remind you of something? It reminds me of John 3:16, where God said, where it says in the Bible, so God said it, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. God gave his Son to die. And you know what? Many theologians liken this story to where God gave his only son. Isaac was his only son of the promise. So let's continue in verse 10 and go to 14. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay the son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Wow. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered him up for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of the place Jehovah Jireh, as it is said to this day, in the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. Abraham was about to plunge his sharp knife deep into the flesh of his beloved son. Do you realize that? He must have hesitated for a moment to gather his will to do it when the angel of the Lord called his name twice. Abraham answered the equivalent of, Here I am, I'm here, in modern English. The angel spoke for God. Don't lay your hand on the boy or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, seeing you've not withheld your son, your only son, from me. So, as Abraham lifted up his eyes, he saw a ram behind him entangled in a thicket by its horns. Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering instead of his son. God did provide for himself a lamb. A wonderful and great joy must have been felt by Abraham. How relieved Isaac must have been not to be the featured offering. I could just imagine. Whew! That was close. But an even greater impact was the role model Abraham was to his son Isaac, as he showed him God is greater than anything he could and couldn't do. Perhaps Jesus, 2,000 years later, was thinking back to this moment when he said, If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Luke 14, verse 26. Our love for our Savior and God needs to be so great that our love towards our loved ones and even ourselves pales in comparison and appears like hate. Folks, it is significant that Abraham called the place of sacrifice Jehovah Jireh. The King James Version, as well as the Judaical Tanakh, adds a further description. In the mount of the Lord it shall be seen. And many Bible versions translate as God the provider, Jehovah Jireh. But they would be incorrect. The word Jireh goes much deeper than that. It means that God who sees and then provides. In seeing, he sees my need and he will see to it. Got it? In seeing, God sees my need and he will see to it. Wow. That goes much deeper than just mere provision, doesn't it? Yes, that oftentimes will include that our needs are met only as God sees fit.